Yo, so I didn't expect to start getting emotional like that at the end of the last video, but it makes total sense. 100% music, specifically hip hop, has completely shaped who I am as a person. I don't know where I'd be without it. And I had touched briefly on how I was going to therapy because there was a lot of fighting at home and things like that. I usually downplay, kind of just skim over, but I realized I can't do that because it's a huge part of the story, had a tremendous impact on me, and is probably one of the biggest reasons why I latched onto music the way I did. So, I'm gonna rewind a little bit and pick back up on that. So, anyway, my seventh grade year, where I was 11, turning 12, is probably one of the most pivotal years, definitely of that period, if not my entire life. To this day, I'd still say definitely changed the trajectory of who I would become as a person in a lot of ways that I didn't realize even at the time. That is because my stepdad had a lot of anger in him. He was not able to control this anger very well, and that led to a lot of explosive situations at home. He was a very volatile person. The fights just escalated. Things had been getting worse, and it kind of came to a heat. Maybe I'll make another video about what actually went down, but it was to the point of skipping school because I was too scared to go downstairs and leave my room. When I finally did get the courage to do that again, I had made this little homemade shank out of a rusty nail that I found and one of those cheap little big ballpoint pens. I duct taped them together and would just keep that shit gripped in my hand so tightly inside my pocket. When I went down there, like, if this dude tries some shit, I'm gonna stab him in the fucking throat. Like, it was pretty intense. There was a lot of guilt and anger, amongst other things that I was dealing with, for not standing up for myself and my mom, especially seeing her like physically hurt and not doing more about it. It definitely planted some seeds of darkness that started to grow really quickly within me. But yeah, this was a time where I was dropped off at a friend's house because my mom and stepdad were gonna hash it out and she didn't want me in the house that night, or me and my mom driving all the way down to LA to stay with her sister and my cousins for a week because of what had happened at home. And to add to that, my life outside of the home, which was mainly at school, of course, was not that great either, to say the least. Did not fit in, at least nearly as much as I had hoped to. Still figuring out who I was. I mean, obviously, I still am, but especially at that point, just had no idea whatsoever of the kind of person that I was or that I wanted to be. I went from entering my sixth grade year as one of the top chess players in the state for my age. That was my dream before music. That was my thing that I was all about. And being in all these advanced math classes to all of a sudden not really caring so much about school and started hanging around with different people and being around drugs and people in gangs and getting in little fights, scuffles at school. I just had this huge chip on my shoulder. I definitely had something to prove, not just to people around me, but to myself. I think, especially as a guy growing up, everybody has this idea of what they would do to protect the people they love, and when it doesn't quite play out like that, it becomes really hard to forgive yourself for it and respect yourself moving forward. But all that shit at home and at school, as tough as they were to deal with, just created this opportunity for music to come in and be that much more impactful. I was getting heavy into G Unit, Dre, Eminem, Biggie, Pac, fucking DMX. DMX was huge for me. This was the exact music that I needed it resonated with a side of me that needed to be tapped into. You know, I had to develop that side just to learn how to guard myself from the world that I was now realizing was a lot more threatening than I had anticipated. Yeah, that's all I was doing when I was at home, was escaping from my reality, writing raps, just listening and downloading as much music as I could. That summer, when I went to go visit my real dad, which is what I did at the time, you know, a huge shift into just writing nonstop. That's when I kind of formed the idea that, oh shit, I found what I'm gonna do. And yeah, going into 8th grade, things kind of just kept going downhill at school. I ended up getting kicked out of the school I was going to for smoking at lunch. Well, first I got suspended for a month, and then they sent me to another middle school not too far. During that time, I would go to work with my mom and my stepdad. They had started a construction company. We were working up in San Francisco because that's where all the big residential projects were. That's where more money was at. So they were driving back and forth literally every day, and they didn't trust me to be on my own after getting caught at school. So I would just have to go to work with my mom every day. And she was cool enough to still let me play my own music in the car rides. So all I would do was just bring notebooks that I would just write raps in the whole time while I was waiting for her to do whatever she needed to do. Or I would have books with me where I'm reading about Run DMC or magazines. This was just such a formative period because it gave me time to really assess what I wanted to do going into high school. This would be my chance to really perfect my skills before I did what I knew would be the next logical step, which is really start putting myself out there and showing people what I've been up to. So I'll pick up on that in the next video. Peace.